The old oak tree outside Robert Mason's office window cast a long shadow on the cracked pavement, much like the one that had followed him since childhood. Robert wasn't your typical psychologist. A student of Carl Jung's philosophy, he didn't just observe behavior, he sought the deeper symbols beneath it. And lately, something about his newest patient had begun to trouble him in a way no textbook or theory could explain. At 45, Robert had spent the better part of 2 decades decoding the subconscious. He had once been an enthusiastic young man, armed with Freud and Jung, ready to save minds and mend emotional wounds. But over time, his optimism was replaced by wariness. He had come to understand that not all darkness within a person was born from trauma. Some of it was chosen, fed, and protected. It was a Thursday when she walked into his office. Her name was Evelyn Shaw, mid-30s, well-dressed, articulate, with a confidence that bordered on theatrical. Her file was thin, just a note from her employer recommending a psychological evaluation after a pattern of disruptive behavior at work. Nothing specific. Just disruptive. She sat across from Robert, her legs crossed, eyes studying him as if she were the therapist. "Dr. Mason," she began, her tone warm but deliberate, "I suppose you're going to ask me about my childhood, right?" Robert gave a professional smile. "Only if it matters to what brought you here." Evelyn tilted her head, amused. "Everything matters. That's what Jung said, isn't it? Even our dreams are maps." That was the first moment Robert felt it, that peculiar tension behind her charm. Most patients arrived defensive or anxious. Evelyn arrived like a chess master studying the board. She wasn't there for help. She was there for something else. Over the following sessions, Evelyn spoke fluently about shadow integration, archetypes, and the collective unconscious. Her grasp of Jungian theory was unnervingly accurate, even poetic. But something was off. She wasn't seeking balance. She was collecting power. She reveled in discussing the shadow self not as something to understand, but as something to weaponize. One rainy afternoon, she shared a dream with Robert. "I was walking through a forest," she said. "It was silent, too silent. And then I saw a house, old and gray. Inside, there were mirrors in every room, but no reflections. Not mine. Not anyone's." Robert paused, pen in hand. "How did you feel in the dream?" "Powerful," she replied without hesitation. "Untouchable. It was as if I had finally become the forest." Robert closed his notebook gently. "And what do you think it means?" Evelyn smiled. "That I'm done pretending." Later that evening, Robert sat in his study, revisiting Jung's works. He thumbed through The Undiscovered Self, and then paused at a passage he had highlighted years ago. It read, "The most dangerous psychological condition is the inflation of the ego. When one identifies with the self, the individual believes they are the ultimate authority, divorced from responsibility or consequence." That was Evelyn. Not someone embracing her shadow, but someone who had merged with it. She wasn't struggling with darkness. She had become it. And worse, she believed it made her superior. Over the next few weeks, Evelyn's sessions took a darker tone. She began speaking about colleagues at work, how easily they could be manipulated, how their weaknesses amused her. She didn't seem malicious, at least not in the overt sense. But there was a detached cruelty to her, like a scientist dissecting emotions she no longer felt. "Why do you think people confide in others?" she asked once. "Trust, usually," Robert replied. She chuckled. "No, it's weakness. People want to believe someone understands them so they don't have to do the work themselves. But when you become your own god, those needs disappear." It was then Robert realized what he had been avoiding. Evelyn wasn't just intelligent. She was dangerous. Not because she was violent, but because she believed her evolution made her exempt from morality. She had built a mask so refined, so self-aware, that even her darkness looked like enlightenment. Robert confided in his supervisor, Dr. Lisa Bradford, a seasoned clinical psychologist with decades in the field. "Ego inflation," Lisa said, sipping her coffee. "Jung's red flag. When someone becomes their own deity, they can justify anything, even cruelty." "But she's so composed," Robert said. So articulate. She knows what she's doing. Exactly, Lisa replied. That's what makes it dangerous. Meanwhile, Evelyn's behavior outside therapy escalated. Her employer reported a growing discomfort among staff. People described her as emotionally invasive. Not in what she did, but in how she made them feel. As if she could see their secrets and was silently judging them. She hadn't broken any rules. But people began quitting. In her final session, Evelyn walked in wearing a crimson dress. She didn't sit. She stood by the window, arms crossed. You've been talking about me, she said without anger. Just certainty. Robert remained calm. I have concerns, yes. For you and the people around you. She turned to him, and for the first time, the mask slipped, only for a second. A flicker of rage crossed her face, like a ripple on still water. You think I'm broken, she said softly. But I'm free. I've torn the mask everyone else still clings to. Robert didn't argue. He knew better. Jung once wrote, the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. Evelyn had embraced her shadow entirely. But in doing so, she had abandoned the human tether to compassion, empathy, and accountability. You're incredibly intelligent, he said gently. But intelligence, without conscience, is like a scalpel in the hands of a child. Evelyn laughed. Maybe the world needs more children with scalpels. It's all decay anyway. She walked out and never returned. Months passed. Robert continued his practice, but Evelyn's case haunted him. He began lecturing at a university, using her case anonymously, to teach his students about the psychological danger of ego inflation, the warning Carl Jung spoke about with such clarity. Not all darkness is loud or messy. Sometimes it wears lipstick and quotes philosophers. Years later, Robert received a letter. No return address. Inside was a note, written in perfect cursive. Thank you for seeing me. Not many do. E.S. He folded the note slowly, tucking it into the back of his journal beneath that old Jung quote. It stayed there, a reminder that the most dangerous sign in a person wasn't anger, sadness, or even cruelty. It was the absence of doubt. The moment someone believes they are beyond question, beyond consequence, they stop being human and become something else. Robert Mason never saw Evelyn Shaw again. But every now and then, when he saw a politician speak without blinking, or a self-help guru preaching superiority masked as spirituality, he'd remember her. Not with fear, but with understanding. Because Carl Jung was right. The most dangerous sign in a person isn't hatred or madness. It's when they mistake their shadow for their soul, and decide the world should follow it.